Welcome to another late IHP show with your very own 5D Mystic. As we get to continue our journey, I'm going to be bringing in more of my woo-woo-ness in the daily episodes as well. But for now, we're going to be talking spirituality. So true spirituality, as you end up finding out, is meaning and connection beyond the solo self. What you also find out is that sciences teaches us all about that. And that's why for some of us, we don't have love and fear in our relationships because we don't have trauma charges lingering. That's because we have processed our emotional teenager and all of the child parts that we have. So we're an inner child adult because the adult is leading the way. But if you learn from people like Patrick Tiahan, he's a childhood trauma survivor. I always say healed and healing. And he supports people to get their inner child in the forefront so they can become their inner adult and disengage from basically just wanting anybody to take care of them, and then also disengaging from continuing to be with what are Balthasar from Pinocchio, you know, people who become squirrels from Cusco land, so ending up with monsters, which are women, men, theys, who treat you in a way of martyr superiors or blamers. So I see the codependent types. They still act like he shows, where they think that their relationship is hot in the love and fear mix, which is really just the biochemistry of fear, without there even being anything necessary. Yeah, it's a biochemistry. I think I described it a little bit. It's really something that's quite, as Patrick puts it, gross. Yes, because when you notice what unhealthy relationships are, and you notice, from a nervous system perspective, because we're all an embodied brain, but because I'm in my present prefrontal cortex, I'll notice that they're in their sympathetic, they're doing some weird push-pull thing, and then they're also like just being, it's not funny or cute. It's not even a power couple, and there are some that are women who think they're actually empowered and they're showing it off. And, you know, Elsa Journey, we got plenty of Pinocchios with wooden bodies who still think that Balthasar is awesome as they get money thrown from the crowd. You know, they're mesmerized. So let me put that aside. So yeah, they don't know that true spirituality is loving our human herd, moving into becoming more of a human, secure attachment. And they consistently don't want to be emotionally self-aware or accountable or regulating, because otherwise they'd be like, look, I notice that I treat myself and then wait, okay, I'm going to go get therapy. And so that way I can heal my trauma. And not to replay my monstrous, you know, whatever's going on here, love and fear inside of this, because love is actually easy and kind, no struggle. Nope. Secure attachment lady right here. I'm a 0-1-year-old, not even one day of struggle. So that we can cry, yes, yes. Sadness and heartbreak is a part of every human being's life. I was heartbroken at 4. Boys didn't want to play with me. Then I got disowned at 8 by my twin, and that was heartbreaking. And then, who knows, a lot more. We got twin flames here, but no dark night of soul, no ego death. And nothing of the extent of this is so hard, because emotions are not hard for a person who's a 0-1-year-old. My inner child adult leads the way. So when your authentic self is leading the way, there's no core content that has shame, guilt, fear in this way of I'm afraid of being inadequate. So no fear of rejection or abandonment. I also have a twin that I mentioned that. So she disowned me. That was a big heartbreak. I found out my feelings and thoughts are not true, which means that what she said was not true, because that's what I thought was true, that I was now no more a sister. And my mother explained. So I learned all about how not to do split thinking or black and white thinking by the age of 8. And I'm going to say that there are people who take Dr. Daniel Fox seriously, and they learn how to also not do that. They also learn about how when you feel hollow and empty and you're trying to become a jello with another person, that's not really going to help you get to your core content, because you end up with the same people that become Balthasar in Pinocchio, and then you're with people who basically bring the surface content up, and that's where martyr superiors, codependent type with blamers, end up, as Patrick Tiahan, again, childhood trauma survivor, healed and healing, points out. The inner child is leading the way, and they're in unhealthy, gross relationships that they think are healthy because they haven't looked at their family history 1 second to notice, wait a minute, love isn't unrequited. Oh, wait a minute, we don't have to live human suffering all the time. It's not ubiquitous. So there are therapists that will say there is ubiquitous suffering, like there are therapists who say that there's shame, but they state it like everyone has to. So like the sex therapists who say everybody has to want to do things in a way that is going to bring up and resurface trauma. I'm just saying, I've seen it all. Believe me, mantles of mental health, mantles of yoga, mantles of spirituality. I'm just wondering, when are they going to get to a good therapist themselves? But then I was informed that there's at least like 50% of them that are unhealed with their own childhood trauma. So they have emotional triggers. Then some have actually 50% dissociative identity disorder. That means they have self parts, or parts of self, which some call alters, which also means that they are not a whole self just yet. So they're not completely in their integrated brain. And so they haven't made sense of their narrative and the emotions that arise in their nervous system that doesn't jive or vibe on in the consistency of what is a love button, which can happen. Raise your hand if you know what unconditional love is with flaws and imperfections. So my 0-1-year-old knows all about how not to be sensitive with people who are not on the true spirituality path, because they get into the Pinocchio wooden body type, attitude. So that's where my entire oversoul, they're beautiful. And I know who is a safe haven, secure base, and who's not. It means I know who's a secure attachment figure, that if I'm afraid, because see, we have love and fear, but love and fear don't mesh to create what is a biochemistry of fear and what is not an actual relationship in the book of an empowered woman who can be her whole self, or man or they, which is why we can be by ourselves and have fun. Now, we will be physically afraid if there are things. So we know how to work with our anxiety and our fear, and not to be ashamed of it, because actually when you learn about how the brain is developed, our ancestors developed anxiety because we started to develop more, get smarter. So we don't actually mock ourselves for being afraid. The only people who mock anyone are the ones who are like Cusco, and Pachas don't lecture Cuscos, because I'm using my prefrontal cortex. I know what empowered 1-year-old means, 2-year-old, 3-year-old, and I'm beyond the teenager, which is why anybody who's being a teenager is not being their authentic self. So if they want to be their 1-year-old, then they'll be happy to have met me. If they don't, and they don't want to meet their 3-year-old, let's say they have love and fear, so they're ashamed of themselves, they feel unworthy, that's why we don't do the, I'm not lovable. It's more of, wow, they don't want unconditional love. Wow. I have compersion. I'm happy if you're happy, whatever you're doing. And I'm also polyamory and solo. I know how to tend to everything. I mean, you got a real deal going on, an independent lover. She's passionate, always on. Like, seriously, you think I'm going to say, Maria, change? I'm just saying that's how it works when you're an empowered woman. You don't say, let me try and keep a man. No. And if it's an empowered man, oh, believe me, he's not going to be like, let me try to keep her on a leash. Empowered men, women, and theys are like, excuse me, love is easy. What are you doing with these keeping, this word? Needy? Anyone needing to securely attach in a way that I don't even know how you can think you're empowered from here, not here. Your mind is telling you a lot of bullshit, that's for sure. Excuse me, chit chatter away. Venuses of goddesses of May who have a flock. It's what happens when Balthasar has a bunch of Pinocchios following him all over the place, and we're like, wow, what happens once the Balthasar turns monstrous and into the squirrel? Will they notice? Nope. They tend to keep people on pedestals, and then they just switch sides. So now I'm going to put you off a pedestal, and that's because they don't get to support themselves, but they could. Okay, so self-aware people, the spirituality people, we grow with our relationships, and the love and fear, they're separate. We have fear for physical events that could happen, and then we have love with people. And we, in fact, surround ourselves with a herd that is unconditionally loving. We all have flaws and imperfections. The oversoul of our entirety, twin flames, soulmates, all of it. They know how to share with us. You be you, and I be me. And there's a me, and there's a you, and there's a we. This differentiation and linkage is what it's called. So we talk about all the depths of our emotional plane. We don't close the heart. Nope. It's authentic, honest, functional adult conversations. Come on over for personal development, self-help to live actual spirituality life, and that's with the human life, obviously. So you're 0-1-year-old, the inner child adult, the adolescent brain novelty, and being an adult though with it. That's why it's fun. It's always energy. You're always on a high without doing anything except for breathing in life. And having people who love, by the way. Oh, yes, they always have a solution for everything. No problems. They're not Eeyore. Nope, nope. They want to live love just as much as we do. So we only keep fear for the important stuff. Tune in for more.